Hello and welcome back to another episode of a Cozy Christmas podcast. My name is Art. Happy Christmas in July, everyone. We have a huge episode ahead. 3 guests on the show today. You'll want to stick around for this. So let's jump in. My guests today are 3 cozy mystery writers that have gotten together to publish a collection of stories that will be coming out this September. It's called Mittens Murder, and the authors include Lee Hollis, Lynn Cahoon, and Maddie. And they've each written a novella for that collection, and it's one that I had the privilege of reading just recently and have really enjoyed that. So we'll talk more about that in the interview, but let's get to a few items before we get to our interview. I hope that you are doing well. We are celebrating my 3rd anniversary. I believe I started back in July of 2020. So yeah, 3 years now. And this year's been a bit rough in getting content out, not because for lack of trying or lack of interest. I'm still raring to go and excited to be sharing these episodes with you. But I've had some struggles with seasonal allergies. Even now, my throat feels very raspy. I've had computer problems. I've had crazy life events happening. Nothing serious or bad or anything. It's just really busy life of recent. And then it seems like when I get time to record, I'm just tired. But that's okay. At least it's the off season. And anyway, I really am hoping to get some couple stories out to you later this month. And then I got a couple of book recommendations for you as well. One is it's a short story collection written a few years ago called Wolfsbane and Mistletoe. And it's a collection of short stories written by a lot of different fantasy and horror writers. The theme is werewolves and Christmas. And there were some excellent stories in that collection that I think really would be a lot of fun to read, and were a lot of fun to read for me. I don't think I would enjoy it as much in actual December, but maybe like a Christmas in July read was perfect. Or if you want to read something spooky come October, I think you'll enjoy this book. There are some stories that are kind of fun and cozy. There are others that are pretty horrifying, and it's got something for everybody in that collection. And I think you'll enjoy that. Another book I read was called Tinsel, The Girls Who Saved Christmas by Cheval Pounder. And that's a young adult novel. I listened to the audiobook version, which I would recommend. The reader is really, she's got a lovely voice. But it's a story of the true story of Santa Claus. You know, it's almost like it gives an alternate history or an alternate version to the legend that we've come to know as the legend of Santa. And I won't say much more than that. I think you should check it out and read it. Adults, it's written for YA audience, but you'll enjoy it. It was very fun and cozy. It was a nice counterpoint to Wolfsbane and Mistletoe. And then the 3rd Christmas book I've read in June is the one we'll talk about in the interviews. Let's get up to the interview loft because I have 3 extremely talented writers on the podcast today to talk about their new book, Mittens Murder. I've got 3 amazing guests on the podcast today, and we're talking Christmas foods, mystery, and murders, and really memorable Christmases often combine all 3. So coming out in September of 2023, a collection of cozy mysteries entitled Mittens Murder, headlined by Lee Hollis, and the next entry in the Haley Powell series. Then we have Lynn Cahoon, who is the New York Times bestseller and author of the Kitchen Witch series. And last and certainly not least, the Agatha Award-winning author Maddie, whose story introduces us to a new series. So welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Happy to be here. Merry Christmas, everyone.
In July.
Christmas in July. That's right. It
Get
is.
all your shopping done.
This is the best time to do it. Yeah. It is hot and humid outside. So what better way to bring in the festive feelings than turning to Christmas when it's super hot out. Now, as I mentioned, all three of you have a story coming out in a forthcoming anthology entitled Christmas Mittens Murder. And every year Kensington puts out a collection of holiday themed stories, which Lee, I believe that's actually how I came across the Haley Powell series. Didn't you do one just a few years ago as well?
Yeah, we've done about 6.
Oh, okay.
With Leslie Meyer and Barbara Ross.
Right.
And we've done Yule log murder, eggnog murder, you name the holidays. I mean, any holiday. I think we've done one. We just did Irish coffee murder for St. Patty's Day recently. So
this is a great way to get introduced to a series you might not be familiar with. I really don't like reading series out of order, but with a lot of these you can, at least in the holiday collections, they seem to be fairly well self-contained. So if you want to try out a new series, pick one of these up. I think it's great. And it's great reading for Christmas time because they're shorter. When during a time of year when we don't always have a lot of time to sit and relax, it's perfect. I'm kind of in awe because I know at least 2 of you, I've read a lot of your work. And let's see, Lynn, yours, this is the first time I've read you. So I really enjoyed your story.
Oh, good.
And can't wait to get to more in that series. Well, let's start with the I guess the bigger name on the book here.
Barely.
Yeah, I gotta get out the ruler there to see whose name is biggest. Well, yours is the first one there. We'll put it that way. Your name is Rick, and you write under the pen name of Lee Hollis. Tell us a little bit about your writing journey, how you became an author.
I started out when I was younger as a TV script writer, and my first show was The Golden Girls, and I worked on a lot of sitcoms and animation, but I was always drawn to murder mysteries, and so I tried to sell a pilot to Universal, and they didn't buy it, so I just said, you know what, I'm going to turn this into a book, and I did. And it flopped, and the 2 other in the series flopped as well. And so I took a break, but then my editor at Kensington came back to me a few years later and said, my sister writes these food columns in our local paper in Bar Harbor, Maine. And he goes, oh, you should write a series based on her. And so I brought her in with the recipes because I can't cook. And so she does the columns and the recipes, and I write the mystery parts of the book. And we've just we're writing our 17th Haley Powell right now. And it's been from there. I do another series without her, but I use the Lee Hollis name. So, but it's Lee Hollis is our middle names. Lee is her middle name, and Hollis is my grandfather's name and my middle name. So that's how we came up with the pen name. But I just want to say that I have been such a fan of Edith and Lynn's, and I love when Kensington does these collections because even though we don't work technically together, I feel like we're a team, and it's really fun. And so I'm very excited about this collection coming out. And I love that they throw out a word like Christmas mittens, so everybody's mystery has to kind of work that in somehow. It's kind of like, are 2 going to be similar, and what?
Well, I think each one of yours managed to be very different in how you use the mitten at the Christmas mitten. So. That's like each book will have a theme. Like I think it was Eggnog Murder was the first one I read of yours, and that was neat to see how eggnog plays into each story. Now, so you've written for Hollywood, you've written for books. Do you like writing books better than screenplays?
I will say this. You know what? What I find fascinating is I actually do prefer writing books because I find a freedom in it that it's not available when you're writing for a studio or a network. But I remain dumbfounded by people who just recently go, which is easier, writing a screenplay or a book? And I'm like, there's no comparison. A book is much harder to write. 350 pages compared with describing everything and every detail. And so many people are honestly ask that question. And I'm like, Screenplays are easy. Books are challenging, and it takes, because a lot of description and inner thoughts and things that you don't have to worry about in a screenplay. You just have to describe the action and the dialogue.
Yeah,
so
that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what that's what the actors and directors are for, is to convey all that, right?
Yeah, it's up in a book, you're creating the entire world,
Right. Right. And then, so what can you tell us about your story in this collection? Again, it's called the Death of a Christmas Mitten Knitter.
Right. Yeah. No. we always, because all our books have death of a, so I try to like push it in that direction. In this story, it's at the church Christmas Bazaar, which is an actual event here in Bar Harbor, and Haley and some of her friends have a gift basket contest of for the raffle. They're having a big raffle. And there's two warring knitting circles, the Crochet Mafia and the Happy Hookers. And they're at war with each other, and who's going to sell their baskets are full of these knitted mittens and scarves and things. And one circle accuses the other of stealing their idea. And then lo and behold, in the church cemetery outside, they found one of the knitters with, of course, a knitting needle in her chest and a mitten stuffed in her mouth, almost like the mafia, sleeps with the fishes. And it's up to Haley to try to figure it all out, what happened and who's behind it all. And it's always a crapshoot. I know Lynn and Edith probably, every book you try to pick a killer or pick a result that people aren't going to guess, and that's always the hardest part, but it's almost the most fun part. And this one I'm pretty happy with the surprise ending, so to speak. So
yeah. Well, and I'll say for all three of you, I didn't guess the whodunit in any one of your stories. So
good.
Although that might be a dubious compliment, though, because I can never guess them anyway. So
but that's always our goal, isn't it? We have to play fair this is Maddie. We have to play fair with the readers, but we also want to surprise them at the end. So it's kind of you've got to ease in those little bits so that when they are surprised at the end, they can go, oh, that's what that was about. Oh, right. Yeah.
So, and sometimes I can figure it out, but it's more of the why or how, that it's still kind of, I'm stumped on. So if I were a private detective, I would just be a terrible one. Was it you? No. Was it you? No. Okay. Trying to figure it out. But, and then, Rick, I think I saw you have a new novel coming out in the Haley Powell series. Is that coming out soon?
Yes, we have a Death of a Clam Digger. So there'll be a lot of clam recipes, fried clams and chowders and things like that. And that'll be out in July. So that's the next Haley Powell mystery. And it's kind of a Hatfields and McCoys, two families. I'm into the warring factions, I guess, lately. And there's two seafood businesses in town, and they're trying to claim the rights of where they can dig for clams in town, and then somebody ends up dead. That's as part of the rules of our game,
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, I got to try hard to make sure to give you all each time here, but I'll circle back with any more questions that come to mind. But let's look at Lynn's story next. Now, Lynn, you wrote one called Two Christmas Mittens, and it takes place in Magic Springs, Idaho, and that's part of the Kitchen Witch series. Is that right?
Kitchen Witch series. Yeah.
Well, what can you tell us about that series?
That series is, she's an amateur witch, so she's a witch in training, and she really doesn't want to deal with it, but her grandmother needs to pass on the wisdom. So her mother said, yeah, no, I don't want it. So Mia has to step in and appease her grandmother because she loves her. So she moves up to Magic Springs from Boise, which is the major city in Idaho, if you don't count Coeur d'Alene. It's my old stomping grounds. It's where I was from. So it seemed like a logical place to place this. And Magic Springs is up in the mountains, and it's all pretty and white and or green and magical. And so that's why I set it there. But Mia's a caterer. And because it's a little town, it's near Sun Valley. So you have some people around, and they've got some ski resorts and all of that, but it's a little town. So you kind of have to do everything. You have to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So in order to save her catering business, Mia has started doing home deliveries, and she does a cooking school. And finally, the lodge, which is the major business in town, has told her that they're not going to use her anymore, her company anymore. They're going to hire a catering director. So she takes the job. And in Christmas Mittens, she is coming from the worst Christmas party ever, because the guy who runs the hotel has hired his girlfriend's catering place so that the real people wouldn't, the real employees wouldn't have to work. So they have just horrible food, and they're griping about it. And as they're leaving, there's three of them. There's Christina, who is immortal, but she's Mia's best friend. And then there's also Mia's kind of almost mother-in-law, but they're not married yet. So, Abigail. And so they're leaving, and Christina walks by and says, "Oh, here's a mitten." She picks up the mitten, and everybody goes, "Oh my God, drop that. No, wait. Oh crap, you already picked it up." Well, the mittens have a problem with them, because they have this story that every Christmas these two mittens come out and they have the power to kill somebody. So they're thinking that Christina's going to be killed, but then they find the dead body. So it's, they have to, Mia and Abigail, they have to find, who killed, the actual victim and why. And then they have to figure out how to save Christina, because Gran has put her under a spell to keep her from dying. And so she's laying in the bathtub covered with green goop. And then Christina's mom wants to talk to her, because her mom wants her to marry this other guy. And, so you've just got all this family stuff, which always happens at Christmas. And you've got all this magic stuff, which Mia doesn't understand, because she didn't know about the mittens either. Everybody else goes, "Oh my God, you touched a mitten," but she didn't know, And so it's just really fun, where they kind of have to figure out all three of these things together and save Christina.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, have you guys had access to each other's stories, or will this be a surprise for you to read when they come out? Okay.
I have advanced copies, but I haven't taken the time to read the other two novellas yet.
So
okay.
I always like to wait until we get the audiobook, and then I love to drive around and listen to the other two stories.
Yeah.
I haven't got my advanced copies yet. So
Okay.
Well, I got one right here.
I know, I saw him on the on social media, and so I emailed the publicist and said, "Hey, here's mine."
I'm an author here. Yeah. Oh, lovely. Now, Lynn, again, your series I haven't read yet, but I enjoyed your story so much. I went and I'm going to go back and read the ones you have published. I love Idaho. I've been there a few times. It's so beautiful. That's one of the things I like about Cozy's is it feels like almost a vacation for your brain at times too. You can get a chance to go somewhere.
Yeah, it really is. And that's one of the reasons I started reading Cozy's when I was going through cancer treatment back in the day. It's been a long time. I'm fine. It's not a problem. But it was something that I could pick up, read a little bit, and then put down, and it wouldn't have, graphic murder in it, wouldn't have the autopsy scene and all those things, yet it kept you thinking about things and places to visit. And so when I got better, that's what I started writing, was that cozy feel, because I love having all those characters and all those families and the people who, you love to hate,
Uh-huh.
And so that's why I love Cozy so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how did you get into writing, Lynn?
Actually, it was that turn of, I'd always wanted to, but Boise State didn't, where I grew up and where I went, my alma mater, I guess, didn't have a writing degree. It had an English degree and I had a journalism degree, and I didn't want to talk to people. So I went into political science, which you do. And so then 40 years later, or 20 years later, I decided that I wanted to pick it up again. And writing for me is, I'm such a learner, and writing is such a job that you always are learning something. You're learning the craft, you're learning the process, you're learning the marketing, you're learning, there's always something new. You're learning your characters' occupations so that you can be more genuine when you're writing them. And it's just something I love doing because of that process of learning. So in 2013, I believe, Kensington picked up my guidebook to murder, which is the first of my tourist trap. No, yes, my tourist trap series, and it is going on to number 18. Next year in the future. So it's just something that that series has really grabbed a hold of my readers, and since then I've written like 4 or 5 more series. So
Sure. Yeah, you've been busy. I gotta say, it's got to be really satisfying to see your series last so long. 18, 20 books. That's incredible.
Yeah, I've had a couple that the Farm to Fork series, which is also set in Idaho, where she's a farm to table chef. It was complete at 6 + 3 novellas, and I was a little sad about that because it was so different in tone than all of my other series, because it was more, I don't want to say more serious, but it was more serious, I think, And so every series has a different feel for me. It's like visiting different people, around the country. I have 2 set in Idaho. I have 1 set in California. I have 1 set in Colorado. I just did a novella series that's set in New Orleans because I loved it and I knew that there was a story there when I visited. So it's really satisfying.
Yeah, great. And they're always fun to read too. So
yes. And they're fun to write.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Maddie Day is the pen name for Edith Maxwell, and I thought I read. Do you have other pen names too, or is Maddie Day your main one?
That's my main one. I wrote 2 books under the name Tace Baker, my first and third mysteries, but they've been reissued as Edith Maxwell books. So Tace she was a professor. I mean, she wrote about a professor. Anyway, she's on permanent sabbatical.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Love it. You are, let's see, an Agatha Award winner. I've been reading your Cape Cod series, which I've enjoyed thoroughly.
Thank you.
And so it's great to have you on. And you are looks like starting a new series with Murderous Mittens being the first story in that series.
That's right.
Yeah, what can you tell us about your series, this new one you're starting?
Sure. Yeah. So just circle back just for a minute. So I'm just about to turn in the 6th book in the Cozy Capers book group mysteries, set on Cape Cod, and I've turned in 11 or possibly 12 in the country store mysteries. Mm-hmm. And I've had 2 novellas, 2 Christmas novellas, the Christmas Scarf Murder and Christmas Cocoa Murder, with 2 other authors. But last year, sometime, my editor at Kensington said, "We'd like you to write a series set on the West Coast." And I'm a fourth generation Californian. I have lived in Massachusetts now longer than I lived in California, but that's where I'm from. Like, I'm a Californian. And I said, I can do that. Like, finally, I get to write a series in California. And my aunt and uncle, who for decades and decades have 60 years have lived in San Francisco, 50 years ago, they built a house up in the Alexander Valley, about 90 minutes north of San Francisco. It's like Napa's little unknown sister. It's a really, really fertile wine producing valley. And they have a house up on the hill made of adobe. And I thought, yep, we're going to have somebody who manages a wine bar. So I invented C.C. Barton and a little town called Colinas, which means hills. And it's generally in the Alexander Valley, but if you try to really situate it, there really isn't quite room for it. But, whatever. I write fiction. That's what we do. We make up towns and we kind of squeeze them in geographically. Yep. And the first book, Murder on Court, will be out in October. But in the novella, when my editor said the novella was going to come out before the first book, I thought, well, then that we have to have Cece's origin story. How does she get to Colinas? Like, what's going on there? So she's a 42-year-old widow. She has a daughter in college. She's been living in Pasadena and goes up the week before Christmas to spend Christmas with her twin sister, Allie, who lives in Colinas with her husband and her twin boys who are 10. So there's a lot of twins in the family. And Allie runs a B&B and an old Victorian, and which there are in California, not a lot, not as many as on the East Coast, but there are old houses. And she's also a real estate agent, and her business gets really busy that week before Christmas. So she sends Cece down to the wine bar in the historic complex of buildings. And Cece's having a glass of wine, 4 p.m, and she starts talking with a woman who's sitting on a stool next to her, whose name is Cam Flaherty. Now, this is just this wonderful integration of my writing, because my first Kensington series was written as Edith Maxwell, and it was the Local Foods Mysteries. So there were 5 books set on an organic farm right here in my northeast corner of Massachusetts. And they've been reissued as Maddie Day ebooks, those 5 books, because they were basically out of print. And my editor said, well, you could loop Cam into the novella. I said, I can do that. That's my mantra when John asks me to do something. I said, I can do that, usually. So this is Cam Flaherty, who was a protagonist in the Local Foods Mysteries. And she is out in California just doing some research on organic farms, like innovative farming techniques in California, which is often the innovator. And they get to talking. And the next morning, they learn Cece's sister tells them that the woman who manages the wine bar has been killed, has been murdered. So Cam has a lot of experience solving murders. Her last one was 3 years earlier. And so she and Cece, but Allie is a suspect, Cece's twin sister. And that we can't have that. So Cece and Cam get to work trying to figure out who bonked this person on the head with a bocce ball in a mitten, in a stretchy mitten. That's not too much of a spoiler. You get to that pretty early in the novella. Because mittens, we got to have mittens, right? So that's the murder weapon, because there's a bocce court outside this historical complex where the wine bar is. And then, of course, the wine bar manager is dead, and Allie keeps saying, don't you want to move up here? Like, your daughter's already in college, and don't you want to be near your nephews and your family? And so by the end of the novella, Cece's going to take the job as the wine bar manager and move to Colinas, and that starts the series that'll be the C.C. Barton Mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that happened.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that. Especially it always seems like, in cozy mysteries, when the protagonist gets caught up in it, they just know what to do to try to solve it. But I really like that Cece was kind of like, I don't know how to solve a mystery, but I better figure it out, And,
yeah. She's got that, what Barb Ross calls that VGR, the very good reason, which is what all of our amateur sleuths have to have.
Right.
Right. If you found a body on the street, you wouldn't go, poison, stroke, murder. You back away and call 911 and hope you never have to, see another one. But this is what amateur sleuths do in mysteries.
Yeah. But yeah, I love that. She's trying to learn how to do this and not always successfully, which created a lot of fun scenes, I'm sure they were to write.
They were fun. I had a lot of fun writing that and writing the first book. And she has a lot of sort of confidence issues. And that's going to be her growth opportunity over the series.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you become a writer? How did you get into this?
Wow. I mean, I've always been a writer. I loved writing fiction as a child. I won a short story contest for kids in the Pasadena Star News when I was 9. I got paid $2 for the Viking Girl. I have it in my scrapbook. But then I got into sort of journalism in high school and college, and then I traveled a lot, and I got a doctorate in linguistics.
And talk to people.
Huh?
And you had to talk to people.
To talk to people. I'm actually good at talking to people. I'll talk to people forever. So that's not a problem.
Excellent.
But I didn't get back to it. And I had a career as a software technical writer, but I started writing a mystery when I was home with my kids for a while, farming and teaching childbirth classes. And I started writing a mystery, and I'd been reading a lot of cozies. I've been reading cozies with recipes. So Catherine Hall Page and the China Bales series. And I really liked reading, and also reading Sarah Paretsky and Sue Grafton, but reading female sleuths, either PIs or amateur sleuths. And I really realized what I'd love to read. So why not spend my time writing a book like that? Then I got a full-time job as a tech writer in high tech. And I really couldn't hold this novel that I hadn't finished in my head while I was raising 2 kids, and I was in an unhappy marriage. And just but I worked on short stories. I joined Sisters in Crime. I really tried to work my craft. And when I got laid off that job after 14 years, I have all this time. You can't look for a job 8 hours a day. So I got back to work on writing novels. And then when I did get another job, it was 4/5 time. So I had writing Fridays. And I left my last day job in 2013, and I just couldn't be happier. Writing 3 or 4 books a year and a couple of short stories.
Yeah.
And the occasional novella.
There you go. Yeah. Now, did you say you got your doctorate?
I did. I have a doctorate in linguistics. Long dusty, but it's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Like the one time I ran a marathon and finished, an accomplishment, sort of a life accomplishment. But
right.
Not something I'm going to do very often.
Well, that's neat. I love hearing the stories behind, the authors, and everyone's path and journey has been different. It's so neat. But yeah, so again, these stories are collected in the Christmas Mittens Murder, which is coming out near the end of September. Want to thank Kensington for sending me a advanced reader copy. And sorry, Lynn, you didn't get yours yet, but
I know, right?
But this was really enjoyable, and one I will recommend my listeners to keep an eye out for. Well, we've talked a little bit about the murder side of Christmas, I suppose, but we also like to hear the stories of what makes Christmas special for you guys. Many of us share so many wonderful memories around this holiday. But let's, since I think all of your series, or at least you've had some series, kind of touch on food. For me, food is a big part of Christmas, which is why I always make my New Year's resolution to diet. you know.
We all do.
Yeah, I'm sure. But let's talk about some of our favorite foods that we have at Christmas time. And if you'd be willing to, if you even had a recipe for them, I could share with the listeners. That would be great. I know some recipes are very top secret, so I'm not necessarily looking for any family secrets here. But Rick, let's start with you. What kind of foods do you like around Christmas time?
Well, this is completely self-serving because we're working on a book that right now we're writing, which will be out next Christmas, called Death of a Gingerbread Man. And I love gingerbread houses. And so the murder is taking place at a gingerbread house contest. And, but if I have any gingerbread, it always has to come with spiked eggnog. I love spiked eggnog. And next to a warm fire. And that is, and it's a little sad now because I grew up in Maine and Bar Harbor, a little cozy little town that Christmas was such a big deal. And now I live in Palm Springs where it's 85 degrees every Christmas, and it just doesn't have that same feeling. So I try to recreate it, but yeah, just not the same. So I have my memories, and I still have the eggnog and gingerbread cookies. So that's me.
Yeah, a couple years ago, for whatever reason, I just started eating gingerbread cookies, and I'm like, these are so good. Why are they suddenly so good? I don't know if it's just an age thing or what, but I can't get enough of them now. So, yeah, and I love eggnog. So I know some people, you either love it or hate it, and I don't understand. Good. All right. I've been known to kick a guest off for not liking it, but no, just kidding. Uh-oh. All right, gotta kick you off here. No. But yeah, definitely. What I love, I found this old picture of me. I was 5 years old. I was making gingerbread cookies with my grandma, and it just brought back all these memories I had of doing that. So was always a fun tradition. Let's see, Lynn, what kind of foods do you like at Christmas time?
Oh, all of them. My mother was the best cook ever. We had 5 in our family. Then she had I have a half sister, and then she married someone with 2 boys, but I was kind of like one of the youngest besides my half sister. So they were all big, they were already families there, and they would all come to the house, and we'd have this huge spread. We'd have a turkey, we'd have a ham, we'd have mashed potatoes, which was my favorite ever. And then, and it was always just this really big event. My mom was a saint to put on that kind of event. I can't even think about doing it. But my sister, and this is probably a controversy with some people, my sister started bringing fresh cranberry sauce. And we had always been, because I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and we'd already been the canned, where you put it on the plate and then you slice it and you can still see the can measurements on it, So I didn't like the fresh cranberry sauce until I started making it myself. And then I just fell in love with that. And I'll eat it, any time of the year on anything, because it's just, it's spicy and sweet and tangy and all of those good things, like a really good Coke is, So for me, it's that. And then the cookie, my favorite treat is that cookie is a snowball cookie. And they're by a whole bunch of different names. They're Italian wedding cookies, and or Italian something cookies, and they're Mexican wedding cookies, and I just call them snowballs. And it's just like, and they've got powdered sugar on it, so you can't sneak them, because as soon as you bite into it, the powdered sugar goes all over.
Yeah.
So, but that's my favorite cookie, and you always have to have turkey and ham. But I think that was because we were such a large family. You couldn't get a big enough ham or a big enough turkey. So we had both. So now it's really hard for me if I don't have both on Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah. Growing up, we would have turkey. And then when I got married, my wife had always had ham. So I joked that we compromised and we have ham.
Yeah, it's funny because my husband and I grew up same place, same town, general town, same everything. And he's a mayonnaise person. I'm a Miracle Whip person. He's a whole milk person. I'm a 2% person. He's a butter person. I'm a margarine person. So yeah, we compromise. We have whole milk and butter and mayonnaise now.
Yeah. Well, and kind of the same with that cranberry sauce. I grew up just having it out of the can. I loved it. And I got married, and my wife's family would make the homemade cranberry, and I relish, I guess they call it. And I'm like, oh, I just don't like it. I don't know. I know it's better. Like it probably tastes better, or it's at least better for you. I don't know, but something about just plopping it out of the can and
slicing it.
Yep.
And putting it on a pretty plate to make it pretty,
There you go. Yes, exactly. Yeah, in fact, I think right behind me, the china cabinet here, we've got the cranberry plate. Yeah. Yep. Well, my wife doesn't mind so much. She's like, with all the stuff we're baking at Christmas time, if there's one thing I can cut out to make stuff easier, that's fine. We'll do it. Yeah. Edith, how about you? What kind of foods do you enjoy at Christmas time?
Well, my mom was not a spectacular savory cook. I mean, she produced dinners for, family of 6 every night, but she never really enjoyed it. She was not a talented cook, but she could bake. Oh my God, could she bake? So, and I have 2 older sisters, and the 4 of us would be in there baking Christmas cookies, for several weeks. Mexican bride cakes, which we make flat, press them in, cut them into squares. Gingerbread people, which I decorate with chocolate chips because it's easier than frosting them. And let's see, all different kinds. One of my grandmother's recipe for English butter cookies that you roll out and cut out with different shapes, right? Reindeer and stars and Santas. And the other one is red sugar cookies, which it's got an hard-boiled egg yolk in it. And my dad used to say how short they were, like lots and lots and lots of real butter. So when I was growing up, we only had margarine except at Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter, because those deserved real butter. As an adult, I haven't had margarine in decades. I just rejected all that. No margarine. We only make, real cranberry sauce from scratch with some orange and a different one of my sons. I have 2 adult sons who are great cooks, and they'll experiment, and that's fine. Just don't touch my turkey stuffing.
Oh, that's
yes.
But yes. We actually we don't have a tradition of turkey at Christmas. That's Thanksgiving, that's really my favorite. I'm waiting to be asked to write a Thanksgiving novella because, boy, I can do that. I should tell John. But in 2002, I got divorced from that difficult, unpleasant husband, and my sons were in high school, and I said, you guys, let's do a new tradition. And they both loved sushi, and I lived in Japan for a couple of years teaching English, so we made sushi, and we started a new tradition of making our homemade sushi for Christmas. We alternated, so either I had them on Christmas Eve and Christmas morning, or I had them on Christmas Day, my sons. And we still do that when we can. I don't get them both home together at Christmas very often anymore. But the baking, I mean, I just have to do all that baking every year, even if nobody's coming. I can give away cookies. Who doesn't want some Christmas cookies on a plate? Right. It's interesting. All my other Cozy series have had recipes in them. And the C.C. Barton mysteries don't, which is kind of odd. I'm so used to, I got to scramble and see how many recipes do I have. But I can't help myself from describing the food that people eat. And, it's wonderful in California, and there's lots of Mexican Mexican-American sort of tradition and fresh produce. And so I've had a ball describing the food, even though I don't include recipes in this series.
Yeah, I picked up on that. There was a tamale cart, I think, in your story.
At the farmer's market.
At the farmer's market, which also kind of threw me off because, here in Iowa, we have farmers markets in summer. If we had it in December, we'd freeze. But then California, right?
Yep. Yeah.
That's too hot for Christmas time for me, for my taste. So
Northern California is a lot cooler than where Rick lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wonderful. Yeah, we go crazy baking cookies. And we've started having to wait because, to get closer to Christmas before we start, because otherwise we'll demolish them all off. And, my solution is, well, we'll just make more, but, we're pretty busy doing other things too. So it's like, okay, maybe we'll wait till a little bit closer, but then, we have so many cookies. We like to share them with neighbors or some of the folks. We have a retirement home here in town. We know some folks there and can go and bring them cookies. And it's amazing. They think you're like the world's greatest person for bringing a plate of cookies. And it's like, really, you guys are doing us the favor.
Yeah, exactly.
Eat these.
Great.
What about Christmas drinks? Like I said, my favorite is eggnog. I'm a pretty simple guy. I just like eggnog. But is there a special holiday drink that you would enjoy? Rick, let's start with you. And if you don't, that's fine.
Well, I love, like a cocoa, like a Christmas cocoa.
Mm-hmm.
But as I said earlier, like the go-to is the eggnog with the bourbon with whipped cream, everything on top. Yeah.
Yep. Lynn, how about?
Well, I will up Rick's cocoa with some hot chocolate and whipped cream and just a splash of Kahlua in there.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I love that. I'll be right over.
Okay. It makes the morning go just a little smoother,
I love that. I like a hot mulled wine in the winter when it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
So you mull it with cinnamon and cloves and I don't know what else, and some red wine. And, you can make hot mulled cider, but hot mulled wine is kind of more interesting. Mm-hmm. And I'm so short and I have no metabolism. So if I start drinking eggnog, I just gotta be a house. I'm only 5 feet tall. So I really, I have to watch the eggnog. I love eggnog, and lots of bourbon in it. Yeah. But I can't do too much of that. Half a cup.
The other one it begins with a G, and I got it at a Christmas market in Vienna. My friends were like, "Oh, you have to try it." Do you know what that one's called? It's definitely like a mulled wine type of drink.
Glug.
Yes, that's
Glug. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
I got to give a shout out to another podcast. It's called Lit for Christmas, and their tagline is that something like the holidays are lit and so are the hosts. And I've had Marty on the podcast before, and what he does is they talk about Christmas literature and drink different beverages that kind of tie into the literature they're talking about that night. And I myself am not a drinker, but I really enjoy their podcast quite a bit. It always sounds really, really good, what they're drinking and the stories they're talking about. So now once we can sober up a little bit now from all of this, but other big parts of Christmas that kind of we incorporate into our stories are like movies and music, books. Do you folks have any kind of traditions around some of your favorite Christmas movies or books or music, things like that? Rick, we'll go ahead and start with you.
I do have a favorite Christmas song. I love, and I like the cheesy Cher version, but I love Christmas, Baby Please Come Home. That's like my favorite song, and I constantly play it during the holidays. That's and as for movies, I mean, Christmas time is the best time because you're too full to move, so you might as well just put a movie on. But I know this is cliche, and there's not even Christmas really much in it, but It's Sound of Music every year. I like to watch the Sound of Music.
That's
Oh, that's
great.
great.
And Hitchcock, because we're mystery writers,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. Lynn?
For me, and it's weird, but my favorite movie is One Magic Christmas. And it starts with an unemployed family who's losing their home, and then the bank is robbed, the father is killed, and the kids are kidnapped. And that's the start of this wonderful Christmas movie where Santa comes and there's an angel, and I think it's because I'm a mystery writer, and that's what I see is like you take, something bad and it turns into something good. And so it is about the magic, too, and about how if you truly believe, and that's the point of the story, if you truly believe, things will turn out right. So it kind of is a time travel too. So, one situation comes and then it comes back and it's another one. So, but I'm also really big on the Santa Claus movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'll watch all of those. They're totally inappropriate for today's political climate, but they're just so funny. And I just love the idea of a dad trying to figure out how to be more to his son, that he lost in the fact that in the divorce, he lost him in the divorce because he was too focused on his own self and his business. Mm-hmm. And then I'm a big one on all Christmas music. Mannheim Steamroller, it's the best one to go shopping with because you just plug it in, you can sing along. Any carols, religious or otherwise, but there's Rocking Around the Christmas Tree has a special memory for me because I used to work for Department of Health and Welfare in Idaho, and we'd have these big Christmas banquets. I mean, it was huge, and I'm all about the food, you can tell in my books and in person. But we'd have these big, and everybody would bring their favorite Christmas stuff. And at the end of it, we'd, get up and we'd make all of the new people get up and sing songs. And one of the songs Christmas songs, because we sang Christmas songs, and one of the songs that they had to sing was Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, because one of the supervisors was from that generation and he just adored that song. So it was, we have, the carols and everything, and they definitely don't do that now, but it was just a nice time to get together with friends.
That's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can make my bit short because I don't watch Christmas movies. I don't watch any Christmas movies. And I'm always feeling kind of left out because everybody else is going, oh, I watch this and I put in this and here's my tradition. And no. Mm-hmm. But I always do look forward to the Call the Midwife Christmas special. And that is like, I don't watch much television, but Call the Midwife, my favorite show, PBS or whatever it's on now. And on Christmas night every year they have their Christmas special. And the season doesn't start till March or so. So it's like, oh, goody, I get a little hit of Call the Midwife. And as Edith Maxwell, I have 7 books, historical mysteries, the Quaker midwife mysteries. So that's a world that I know pretty well of midwifery. I do love singing carols. I love singing in groups. I mean, I can carry a tune. I don't have a particularly fancy voice, but I love singing in groups. It's stemming from way back Girl Scout camp. There's 100 of us in the lunchroom, in the lunch hall, singing after meals, and it just makes me cry. So I go to the Quaker meeting here. That's my church, and we oddly have once a year where we have a program. So otherwise we're an unprogrammed meeting, so we sit in silence on Sunday morning. But at Christmas, we do the ceremony of lessons and carols, and we read the little lesson, and everybody sings carols together. And that's just in our historic meeting house. It's absolutely heartwarming. I love doing that. I never miss it.
That sounds lovely.
That does.
Yeah.
Now, I also forgot to say that I'll probably watch every Hallmark Christmas movie made this year or any other year, but I tape them so that I can say, okay, have I watched this one yet? Did I like it? If I liked it, I save it and then I watch it later.
Nice.
Yeah.
I tape them. No, that makes me sound old, huh?
They're on year round, but Lynn, aren't they on the year round now too? They just they keep making
they are, but
like this podcast. It's like
but
Christmas in
Christmas in
July.
Right.
July. Christmas in July really gets Hallmark going. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Great.
I always think I want to, and I've watched a couple Hallmark here and there, but it's almost to the point where I don't know, like, where do I start? There's so many. And somebody said, just pick one. I mean, they're all the same. So just pick one.
Somebody's going to fall in love over the holiday under the mistletoe.
Right. Well, I'm here for that though. I mean, it's cliched, but yeah, that sounds great to me. Wonderful. But yeah, you're in good company, Lynn. There's a lot of Hallmark fans that listen to my show too. So they'll be running to the TV. But I had to laugh though when you said you taped them, because I knew exactly what you meant, but I was like, oh, I bet kids today might not remember what that means even.
Yeah, it shows my age. Yeah.
That's all right. My brother still says that the VHS is a superior form of movie consuming, and like I don't know about that, but
yeah, the VHS was never a superior form.
Well, he's
like the 8-track,
right? Yeah,
it left really quickly.
It did, yeah. All right. Well, to start wrapping things up here, we'll go through and I'd like to share just maybe a Christmas memory or a tradition that you've had that really means a lot to you. And I know some of you have kind of shared some already. So if you want to add to that, that's fine, or pick something else too, that works. But Rick, you want to go ahead and get us started on that?
Well, I mean, I pretty much all my traditions are out there, but it's just my mother lives in Florida, so I don't really get to see her. So whenever I do see her for Christmas, it's a special time. And actually, the reason I'm here in Maine is it's her 80th birthday, and we're all coming home to our hometown and we're going to Nova Scotia, where her mother was from, and we're going to go over and look at that. But in Palm Springs, it's like just being with my friends is always just such a treat, and sharing a big, wonderful meal and lots of wine. And it's just, that's the best Christmas I can think of.
Mm-hmm. Lynn, how about you?
I think my best Christmas memory was the year that I painted. We didn't have a fireplace in our house, in our new house, and my boy was young. He's probably 3 at the time, so he kept asking how Santa Claus, 3 to 5, probably how Santa Claus was going to find him, because we didn't have a fireplace in this new house. So I painted a fireplace on cardboard and we put it up on the door, Christmas Eve. And as you do, you put him to bed, and then I cleaned up and did some stuff. And I got up later to stuff the stockings, hoping that he'd be asleep. And I found him in the corner where he could see the door and the fireplace, and he was waiting for Santa, so he would surprise him. And I just love that memory, because he was just so enthralled with the idea that Santa was going to come through that door. Or come through that.
That's a great memory, Lynn. Yeah.
It's lovely. Yeah.
So my memory is a relatively new one. One of my 2 daughters-in-law is Jewish, and she and my son live now just about 2 hours to the west of here in Massachusetts. So I see them more often than my son and his wife, who live in Puerto Rico. And sometimes Christmas overlaps with Hanukkah. And so when they were living in Maryland, I actually I bought a menorah and the candles, so she didn't have to schlep it up with her. And it's so beautiful at the end of the day to be with her as she's lighting the candles. And there's that lovely sort of sung prayer that she does. It just makes me choke up even thinking about it. But it's such a rich tradition. And even though it's not a particularly religious holiday for Jews, I love that she observes it, and we make latkes, and but just that it's getting, the light is dim at whatever 4 o'clock, whenever it's getting dark in Massachusetts in December, and she's lighting the candle, and we're just standing around, and she's singing this prayer, and so it's a Christmas season new memory that we've added to our family, and it just makes me so happy.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's well, one of the reasons I started a Christmas podcast is I love traditions and love hearing about them. Especially, I mean, there's a lot of truth when we tell people happy holidays, because there's more than just Christmas happening, and I love finding out about those things like that. Yeah, that sounds really beautiful.
It is.
Well, you all have made me hungry, and and I'm feeling all warm and cozy now too. So mission accomplished. All right. Well, again, the book is called Christmas Mittens Murder. It's coming out on September 26th this fall. So be on the lookout for that, as well as any of their series. I have enjoyed what I've read from you all so far. Let's kind of go in order again. Just real quick, tell us about your website or where we can find books, whatever you want to promote. Rick, we'll start with you again.
Yes, you can go to leehollismysteries.com or rickkopp.com, and all our books are there. And be on the lookout for the Death of a Clam Digger coming out in July, and then after that a new Maya and Sandra, another series I do, and that'll be Murder at the Spelling Bee, which will be coming out next year.
Oh, fun.
All right, Lynn.
Okay, I am at lynncahoon.com, and it's CAHOON. They told me to change my name, but I didn't, so that's my real name, and so that's what you get. But yeah, I've got everything up there. I have a new Survivors Book Club mystery coming out just before the Christmas Mittens Murder, the first Tuesday of September, whatever that is. And it is called Death in the Romance Aisle, because she's a bookstore owner, and unfortunately her romance specialist has an issue. So
awesome.
Maddie.
Yeah, so I can be found at edithmaxwell.com or maddiedayauthor.com. I hope people will come find me as part of the Wicked Authors at wickedauthors.com. And at Mystery Lover's Kitchen, I'm on there every second and fourth Friday, and there's 12 of us who write cozies with recipes, and we offer an original recipe every day of the month. So Murder at a Cape bookstore, my next Cozy Capers book group mystery, will be out at the end of August. The novella collection, end of October. Murder Uncorked at the end of novella collection, end of September. Murder Uncorked, the first C.C. Barton mystery, at the end of October. And then Deep Fried Deaths, my next country store mystery, comes out at the end of December. So it's a busy book release fall for me.
Wow.
And I hope people will come and sign up for my newsletter on my website, and come and say hi on social media.
All right.
And thank you, Art. This has just been so much fun.
Yes, thanks, Art.
That was my fellow authors and you. Yeah.
Yeah. This has been a blast. I thought about interviewing each of you individually, but then I thought, well, you're all in a book together. Let's just get you all on together and see.
Writers spend so much time alone. It's great to be with other people.
There you go.
Even if it's on a screen.
Yeah.
I hadn't met Rick before, so when we were at Left Coast Crime in Arizona this March, I stalked him down and said, "Hi, I'm Lynn." And
it was great. I love those events.
Yeah. Now there's one out east. Is it called like Murder Domestic or
Malice
something like
Domestic.
Malice Domestic?
In Bethesda, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in North Bethesda, but VoucherCon is in San Diego in August, and I'll be there.
I will too. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Oh, good. I'll meet you there. Yeah.
I won't be there until Nashville, which is 2024. So
Oh, right. Right.
Well, we need more Midwest mystery conventions, whatever you want to call it. That's I always feel overlooked. We got some out east, some out west, and it's like, what about us?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing to do out here but read books. So all right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. I know you're busy and I appreciate it. And look forward to reading more of your work in the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. I want to thank Larissa at Kensington for helping me organize these three writers. I know all three of them are very busy. It means the world to me that you three took time out of your day to talk with me on my podcast. So thank you so much. And I hope all the best for you in the future. And folks, I really recommend you check out their book series, but especially this collection. It'll get you right in the holiday mood. And it comes out on September 26th. So check your local bookstores. So I want to thank you for joining me today. I'm hoping next week to have an episode out where I'll be reading you a Christmas story. So stay tuned for that. If you'd like to help support the show, there are some links in the show notes that you can do that. Go ahead and check those things out. If you support me on Ko-fi.com, I will be sure to send you a bookmark and a Christmas card as my way of saying thank you. Just be sure to email me your mailing address so I can get that to you. There are also some links to, I've got some t-shirts and merch store, a couple of them down below. I really need to update some of that, but you can check out what I've got there if you are so inclined. And with that, I want to thank you all for joining me today. I look forward to reading you some more Christmas stories in the days to come. So until next time, let's remember to honor Christmas in our heart and try to keep it all the year. Have a very Merry Christmas.